we're back. Welcome back to the Solomon Project, everybody. Where it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that counts. I'm your host, Richard Burns. And we're going to start off today's journey in New York State. I have no idea what the name of this town... No, I'm supposed to have an idea of what the name of this town is. Walden. This is Walden, New York, right off of I-84. Walden, New York. I'm very close to Newburgh. In case some of y'alls are familiar with the Newburgh area, that's where I'm at. I'm currently exiting a truck stop, TA. It's called TA, Travelers of America. Of America? I think it's of America. That's what I think the TA stands for. Travelers of America. I was going to say Travelers America, but no. Earlier today, I participated in a live Lucy's. That's the name of her channel, Lucy. It was hysterical. I was laughing. Those people had me laughing. I had a great time. I think she does it every Monday. Does she do it on Mondays? I don't even know. Honestly, I don't know. It's best to just go to her channel and find out. But I had a ball. I participated in Vegans Live also. Vegan King. He makes some splendid vegan dishes. Hence the name Vegan King. I had fun there too. Nikki P had her live. She was gaming. And she was smoking her adversaries. Blasting them away in an urban war environment. Yeah, she was steady using her skills and blasting them. Double D, as usual. Heat and Color Podcast, as usual. Providing the entire planet Earth with that fire content. Fire! The All Bomb Lady, of course. Tara Helms, aka the Professor. Curtis York. All these people are providing planet Earth with fire content. Nunu's channel as well. It's a list. It's a long list. It's a very long. When they come on my live, I usually post their or show their channels. I mean, it's a very long list. I mean, I could be here, wow, maybe 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 36 seconds running down that list. So, my apologies if you didn't hear me mention you. But definitely, when you come on my lives, Saturday night I like to put out a live. And if you come on my live on Saturday, whoa! Yeah, that record skipped. I guess I gotta hit some odium. Yeah, if you come on my live, or if you come over to my live, pause, Saturday night at the Saturday Night Live, I'll definitely put your channel up so people can see it and Hopefully they can subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, all the delicious things that we content creators love from our subscribers. Let's go. We're going to Oneida, New York. Oneida, New York. That's up there. That's up by the Syracuse area, which is further north from where I am right now. Because like I said, I'm very close to Newburgh. I mean, very close. But check out the scene. Get on up. Yeah, we're getting on 84 right now. Right now. Well, this is interesting. This is very interesting. Who was I talking? I'm trying to remember who I was talking to. I think it's somebody that I know. Was it with him? I think it was. We were discussing the outcome of the elections, and as usual, you know, Trump supporter. I asked him a few questions. He says, nah, he's just talking. He ain't gonna do that. Well, it turns out that the people he's already selected to be a part of his cabinet are people that are going to do exactly what he said he was going to do. So you go ahead and check that out, because so far, for the people that he's chosen, there may be a lot of I told you so's come January 20th. I told you so. Nick Fuentes, certified bona fide white supremacist, already put out a video. Pretty sure everybody's seen it already, where he's mocking women, telling them they don't get to control their body. They will never control their bodies. That's more or less the type of rant he was putting out. So it's going to be interesting. Come January 20th, I can hear it now. And that's just a small part. There's going to be a whole lot of I told you so's. And then there are people that are posting videos, which I don't understand why you would do this, but there are people posting videos crying, some of them crying because their family cut them off, because their spouses filed for divorce over their election choice. Friendships have been broken up. And there's a little group still waiting to say, I told you so. I told you this was going to happen. I certainly don't hope it comes down to that. But it'll prove to be very interesting in any event. Even Jesse, I forget his last name, from Fox and Friends. His mother told him, well, she didn't say it this way, but she basically apologized to her son, Jesse, and said, unfortunately, there isn't going to be enough space for you to come over for Thanksgiving this holiday. So, marriages have been broken, families have been separated. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. Whole lot of stuff going on. So the consequences have already begun, basically. I know Stephen Miller is one of the appointees. One guy who's called the Czar of Immigration. They want to kick out 12 million immigrants in I don't know how much time. Gretchen, is that her name, from South Dakota? Whitmer. Sorry, I don't remember your full name, but she's the lady that caught a lot of heat for unaliving her puppy. She's in the cabinet. I mentioned Stephen Miller, right? Do y'all know about Stephen Miller? Maybe you should look him up. But he's in. Let's see who else is in. And again, it shouldn't be a big deal if we have to endure 4 years before we decide that maybe we want to change. But there's a big question mark as to whether or not that's going to happen. Big question mark. By the way, I just drove by Stewart Air Force Base, or the exit that would take you to Stewart Air Force Base. Sorry to change the subject, but that's an Air Force base that has fighter jets that would have been in New York City in less than 5 minutes when the whole business with 9/11 occurred. Stewart Air Force Base, very close. But for some reason, on that particular day, they were performing exercises and nobody could answer the phone that day for some reason. Very interesting. Very interesting. That was the excuse. That was the excuse. If I were, well, whoever was in charge of that facility, of that base, and I was their commanding officer, boy, I don't think they would have that would have been career ending. That would have been career ending. That would have definitely been career ending. You would have been out of here. What you mean nobody was available to answer the phone? Did you lose your mind? Stewart Air Force Base, if I'm not mistaken. That's an active duty center, and nobody's available to answer the phone. Are you kidding me? Listen, stop playing. Oh yeah, I had to make a move. Man, it sounds windy. Can you hear the wind? It sounds extra windy in here for some reason. Hoo-wee. Oh, that might be the reason why. Sounding extra up in here. Up in here. So, with the, going back to the individuals that were appointed to Trump's cabinet, let's see how it keeps shaping up. Because as it stands now, looks like there's going to be some people that are going to suffer things that they didn't think they would be suffering. Montreal, Canada, 300 miles north. Very interesting. Now, the bond market after the elections started bugging out. I haven't taken a look since then, but the bond market was not painting a pretty future, at least not for the U.S. economy. It was not painting a pretty future, and that's in response to the policies that Trump wants to implement. So the bond market reacted, and keep in mind, the bond market is 4 times larger than the stock market. So with the talk of lowering interest rates, lowering taxes, and a couple of other things, that spooked the bondholders in the bond market. Now, how does it work? Okay, so a bond is actually a certificate that says that you, the purchaser of the bond, is actually lending either a financial institution like a corporation or a government, and you're lending them money. Keep in mind that banks lend money, but to be considered a bank, you have to register with the federal government, and there are a great many regulations that you have to abide by. So if a corporation or a government wants to go borrow money and they go to a bank, they may have to meet certain requirements, regulations apply toward the bank as to whether they could lend, how much they could lend, depending on the amount of deposit that they have. Well, zero now, but there was a time when there was fractional reserve lending that the banks had to keep a certain percentage of the total amount that's been deposited. For example, if you deposit $1,000, there was a time where the fractional reserve lending was set at 10%. So when a bank received $1,000, they had to keep 100 of those dollars in the bank, and they could lend the other 900. That's fractional reserve. Well, in the first Trump administration, I think that's when it happened, it was brought down from 10% to 0%. So when the bank received your $1,000, they can lend out the entire $1,000. However, now they don't have to keep any of it in the bank. But there are regulations that banks have to abide by. Now, if a corporation were to appeal to the general public, well, they can sell bonds to the general public, and you can buy a bond from this corporation. Let's say it's $1,000 bond. Cool. You can purchase the bond for $1,000, which means you just loaned that corporation $1,000. Now, is it for free? No. You're going to lend them the $1,000, but they're going to pay interest on that $1,000. Not only are they going to pay interest on that $1,000, you get to pick and choose how long you get to lend them that money for. Let's say it's for a year. Okay, so you buy a 1-year bond, and let's just say they got to pay you 4%. 4% interest for borrowing that $1,000 for a year. And the reason why I don't purchase bonds is because 4% is not an attractive return for me lending you my money. What percentage is a mortgage right now? Is it still at 7%, or is it down to 6%? Whatever it is, 6 or 7, that's still higher than 4%. The bank will lend you money at 7%, but I can only lend at 4%? Nah. Now, granted, if it's a mortgage, yeah, you're holding on to that risk for 30 years. But not really. I'm not going to go into detail as to why not really. In any event, governments also borrow money. They also sell bonds. The most secure bonds to purchase in the world are U.S. Treasury bills. Those are the most secure bonds in the world. Lending the U.S. federal government money is the most secure customer you can have as a borrower in the world. That's why this bond market is so large. You have corporations buying government bonds. You've got individuals buying government bonds. You got corporations and individuals buying U.S. government bonds from other parts of the world. You got other governments buying U.S. government bonds from all over the world. because it's a safe place to stash your money and still get a return. Banks are not the best place to secure your money. They still serve a purpose, but if you're gonna stash large sums of cash, and this isn't financial advice, but you may want to stash it by purchasing bonds. Now, bonds have what are called maturity dates. When a bond is mature, it's time for the lender to pay up in full all that they borrow. Plus, throughout the course of time, they would have been paying their interest. For U.S. Treasury bonds, every 6 months, they pay you interest. Again, it doesn't yield a return the way the stock market yields a return. The stock market yields better returns than bond markets. However, the stock market is riskier than your bond market. I'm referring to U.S. Treasury bonds because there are some extremely risky bonds. And the riskier they are, the higher percent return they give you. The higher percent return they offer you, better said. Because the higher the percent return, the less of a guarantee that you'll be able to walk away with your money. It all depends. For example, the Ukrainian government could be offering bonds, but in the situation that's in, or the situation that Ukraine is in, how risky is it lending Ukraine money? I would say extremely risky. So a U.S. Treasury bond, maybe a 1-year bond, I don't know what the rate is right now. It might be at 4%, 4.25%. But a 1-year bond for the Ukrainian government, yeah, they might be offering 90%. God only knows. I don't know. I didn't go in. I don't know. But I'm giving you those figures just so that you can understand and just to illustrate my point. The riskier the borrower, the higher the return. And as an investor, you should definitely do your homework, because there may be some risky ventures that will lie and say, well, no, I'm not that risky. And before you know it, they're filing bankruptcy, and they're supposed to, but they can't even cover the bond. Not so good. What do you think of that? So, investors in the bond market, and I'm not talking about the average person, I'm talking about institutional investors, governments that are holding U.S. bonds. They're feeling some type of way. They're feeling some type of way because of Trump's policies. primarily his trade policies. And by the way, we all know that China's a target, but China's been making moves. China has been making moves to avoid those tariffs. They've been setting up shop in U.S.-friendly countries. Oh yeah, they're trying to circumvent that tariff. The reason they're trying to do that is because they're trying to keep their sales up. Because once the tariffs are placed on China, China doesn't pay for the tariff. We pay for the tariffs. When their goods come in, whatever business is that's importing those goods, they're the ones that are paying the tariff, not the Chinese. So when it hits the store, you see a higher price. It ain't the Chinese that made it a higher price. It's the tariff that was imposed. Now, I understand the need for tariffs sometimes, but you got to be careful with just how broad the tariffs are applied. I mean, this thing could get real interesting. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying, Doodle Stain? Yeah, very interesting stuff. And I haven't hit the odium yet. Odium. I'm curious, are you paying attention to how or who Trump is picking to be part of his administration? Are you guys paying attention to that? Because like I said, it's looking like it's peanut butter jelly time. And there's going to be a whole lot of people saying, "See, I told you so." Well, the infighting has already been going on for a few days now within the Republican Party. They's fighting right now. So while they're fighting, I'm gonna let you guys go hang out with Kitty Kitty.
Arabamda aça, seviyorum çift kalem aça. Göremedi kimseden fayda. İşler